and welcome back to episode 2 of The Breakdown. I'm Nelson Velasquez.
And I'm Chris Lee.
And we're both cloud solution architects for BreakFree Solutions, where we work with cross-functional teams in an agile way to help organizations execute the digital initiatives.
And what does that mean, Nelson?
Good question. Well, I will tell you. Well, whether it's cloud and DevOps or delivering digital solutions or doing some machine learning, maybe doing some automation, or maybe even trying to get, Disney Plus to allow you to stream all the episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi before they actually air. We're here at BreakFree Solutions, are a leader in enabling businesses in achieving their goals, and we're here to share with you how we do it.
And The Breakdown is BreakFree's new podcast where we talk about all the different things that we do. We're currently in our Agile and Scrum series, so we'll be chatting with Andrew Diodati, another solution architect here at BreakFree, about ideal sizing for Scrum teams and how to scale them.
So let's get this started. Yeah, let's bring up Andrew. Andrew, turn on your camera. Wave at your adoring public. Everyone's here. They came for you. How you doing, Andrew?
Good. How you doing?
We're doing all right. We hope that we're so glad that we had you here today, and we're very, very happy that we're featuring you because you are an OG with BreakFree. Is that correct?
I've been here a little while, yeah.
Why don't you tell people more about what you do at BreakFree?
Oh, I mean, like any good consultant, it depends. But a lot of what I do centers around helping to support the people and processes surrounding all the technical solutions and changes on all those initiatives that you mentioned. I'm in there helping lead and make it all happen.
That's so humble. Such a humble description of what it is that you do.
I do it all. I mean, that's the truth, though. That's the truth.
I do everything, Nelson. Need coffee? I'll go get it. No problem.
I think we're going to jump right into a game of Hotbox, where Nelson's going to set a timer. Don't even know how long yet, but we'll figure it out when it beeps. And what we're going to do, Andrew, is we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. They should be pretty simple, straightforward, this or that type of questions, multiple choice. Answer whatever one comes to your mind, and let's go.
All right, why don't you kick it off, Chris?
All right. I always open with this one. Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Oh, what do I do? Because I have it opposite because of my cats. So it's got to be over. It only took one day for it to all come out. I figure I'm prepared for kids then, though, too. I hear they do that.
Cherries on top or cake at the bottom?
Cherries on top.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
George Burns or Mr. Burns?
Mr. Burns?
Excellent.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Who did it better? SpaceX, Blue Origin, or Gene Roddenberry?
Oh, Gene Roddenberry.
Of course.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
If you could only have one of these, which one would it be? Chainmail, a sword, or a coupon to Baskin Robbins?
A sword?
Netflix or YouTube?
Probably YouTube.
Yeah, me too.
Who's more integral to your life, Madonna or Michael Jackson?
Oh, Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Fast cars or big trucks?
It's big trucks.
Yeah?
Cool.
Cool.
Which one would you give away, Florida or California?
Truth be told, I like both of them. I just don't want to live there. California. I love Miami. Super cool.
Movies at home or in the theater?
Oh, at home.
The letter P, T, or R?
T. And Wheel of Fortune.
Mm-hmm.
How about movies, horror or comedy?
Oh, I like both. Probably comedy. I do like horror, like the classic franchises, not so much like the new one-off stuff.
What key should someone get married to? The key of D, E, or F?
D, right?
Always.
Yeah.
F sharp.
Well, isn't it canon in D, right?
Yeah, canon is in D. Yes, that's correct.
There you go. All right. Ninjas, pirates, or Vikings?
Oh, Vikings.
Yes.
If you could find a new way to walk, would it be crab walking or crawling?
Crab waffle.
Is a taco a sandwich?
In a weird way, sure.
Daleks or Cylons?
Cylons.
Oh man, that good answer. All right, let's see. Going on long walks, introspective long walks, music or podcasts?
Music.
Favorite kind of lotion? Cinnamon or oatmeal?
Oatmeal. Cinnamon doesn't sound good to put on your skin.
That is time. That is time, everybody. I'll give it up for Andrew, those of you who are playing along at home. Let's get to know you as what you do today and start kind of bringing some of the principles that we have from an Agile perspective into light. For those who may not know what a product owner is, what are some things that they do?
On this current team, backlog management is a big deal. We've got actually a pretty highly performant development team, which is awesome. We've built that up and supported that. They can chew through some stuff. Pretty big. We'll probably get into that later on how to manage some of that. But preparing the work for the teams to execute quickly. So we've got a wide breadth to our product. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different integrations, and supporting basically the refinement of that work to hand it off to a developer so they can execute it quickly. While also at the same time, I'm a big proponent of bring your development teams problems to solve, not solutions to implement, right? But if you just bring in a team that says, make it work, you're not going to get the returns that you want. So a lot of my current role focuses around the refinement of the work and a little bit of like Scrum mastery type stuff on resolving impediments, getting the right people in the room, right? Just helping the work proceed smoothly.
Yeah. So with the refinement, like what level of detail do you typically look for or strive for? And I know it might be different with every team, but like, like you don't want to technically tell them exactly how to do the things, right? You're giving them a problem to solve, but you also want to give them that direction. Like, how do you know when it's good enough?
It's a bit of a 2 ears, 1 mouth situation to start. Let your team tell you what the level is and observe and see, okay, are they able to run with what I have here, or do I need to put more spit shine into these stories? I'm also a big proponent of just enough in general. This gets into minimum viable product and iterative. Do just enough to help us get out that iteration and then work on the next iteration. So you're right, it is a balance. But how do I know? I've got to listen to the team and I've got to observe and see how it happens. On this team, it's more prescriptive. On this current team, more prescriptive than not, because there are so many moving parts and because there are so many integrations that we're working with. And when it comes to situations like that, you don't want to leave it. You want to err on the side of being more prescriptive than more open, because if you implement it wrong, like it won't work. And some of it is just like if you're hitting an API, the signatures are what they are. So, okay, I'll help show you, okay, go to this, use this API for this integration. And here's what you'll need to do with it, but let me show you what the API is and how you work with it. Rather than, oh, you dig through the documentation and you pull an API out of a hat. That wouldn't be enough direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this idea of this phrase of 2 ears, 1 mouth. I love having that idea where you're consolidating all these ideas and making it uniform amongst all the different components that you're going in there with. How do you feel about being that person and being able to communicate that information out to the other teams?
So, that's a good question. Like I'm comfortable in it now. At least I better be, right, in my current role. But personality-wise, you go back in the day. I was definitely much more like introverted and quiet, and then over time, kind of found my voice. And for me, it's less about being the voice per se, and more about the force, the driving force. So if I'm going to open my mouth and say something, it should be to achieve some sort of action at the end, to drive for it. Even if I'm not the one executing it, or I don't even know, I can still, in that position, right? Think about that. I don't know how to necessarily solve a problem, and I don't have the access, skills, means, whatever, right? The ability to do it. So I'm both ignorant and I'm trying to think of a word, powerless.
to that whole idea of listening, truly listening to your team, to get all of that information put together and then having an opinion or a direction that you're setting forth, I think is super important, especially as a product owner or an architect. So I think that's
Right,
really cool.
right. That's where the owner part of product owner comes
Yeah.
in, right? You have to own the outcome on the product.
Absolutely. And I think so, like for you, because you have so many moving parts, like what are some of the techniques or tools or like things that you like to do to manage like how you position your product so that it stays in line with the grander scheme or the grander, scale of what you're plugging into? How do you do that?
Yeah. So you got to prioritize. You got to have clear priority. And that's not 5 number ones. That's number 1, number 2, number 3, right? If everything's number 1, nothing's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that's so important is because that's, in my opinion, how you achieve alignment, top to bottom, side to side, however you want to look at it, right? I mean, you even take this idea and align it to larger corporate strategy, right? Priority. Everyone's got a role to play here. And if you have it, then you're ensuring that you're working on the right thing at the right time, which I think is a big element of agility, right? It's not necessarily about getting nominally more out the door or absolutely more out the door. It's about getting the right things out the door, right? And the classic example I like to use is Nokia phones, right? They were awesome. They were top of their game. iPhone came in and disrupted it. Nokia continued to be very good at producing their phones, but no one wanted them after the iPhone disrupted it. So you can be very effective at moving things out into the marketplace and still miss the mark. It's about being efficient, but also effective, what the people want. So this concept of right thing at right time, I think is a very big deal. So when it comes to managing it, priority, and then you can put your weighted effort into that. If you're stuck on number 5, but number 2 isn't figured out yet, I think it's pretty clear that you have to focus on at that point in time.
Well, you need to be transparent in that, right? Which is what we use our sprint reviews for and everything, to show them like, this is what we're working on. This is our velocity. This is how fast we're doing things. And this is our priority. This is what we're working on next. And if we're off course, let us know, right? It's supposed to be this collaborative sprint review. And then if they're asking, well, why can't you get to number 3 yet or number 4 yet? Well, here it is, right? Should I bump this up? Make this more important. And if I move this up, something else has to move down then, right? Because like you said, you can't have 5 number 1s.
Because it's not that the 5 different people that are saying mine are number 1 are necessarily wrong from their perspective, right? It's not that individuals are necessarily right or wrong, but it's about the fitness of what you're doing. And that's, I think, another key element of product ownership is taking that, interpreting that, and assembling it in a plan that makes sense. Or if it doesn't make sense, again, ownership on you say, well, can you do all this in this time? No, I've got a 7-pound bag and 10 pounds of stuff. I can't do it. That should organically open the conversation to, I mean, it gets into kind of iron triangle type stuff. But if you give me 2 more guys or gals, 2 more developers, hey, I can make that happen on the timelines and the scope and all that stuff that you want. But the bigger thing is, if you're pivoting towards rapid adaptability in small increments, MVP, iterative development, all this good stuff, it should place less pressure and onus on assembling everything together 100% upfront kind of thing. Right. I can get you something out there, may not be 100%, but if I can get you 80% of the value in 20% of the time, then boom, there we go. And what's interesting is then that extra 20% that you thought you needed, either you didn't need it that bad, or it's superseded by something more that you learned by publishing that 80% out in the field. Now your plans changed. Whereas if I'm doing it all at once, I totally miss the opportunity to incorporate that feedback directly into my development process.
Speaking of adding developers or resources, I mean, how do you manage or how do you like to approach when you have a need and you've identified like, okay, based on the priority and based on the timeframes that you're looking at getting these things done, I need more resources. How do you manage scaling your team up and down?
Ideally, right, it would be really product driven, right? Hey, there's a good business reason, hopefully a good customer reason, right? That maybe this, what was previously considered a feature of my product, spins off and can actually be its own product team. or maybe I just need more absolute on this. Maybe you start getting to a scaled scenario, whatever it is, right? But that there's a business need. You're getting real feedback from the wild, from reality, and are incorporating it into how you're prioritizing and what you're building, and therefore the capabilities that you support, i.e. add more developers. What I tend to see in the field, and this is where, okay, it's crisscross, you still get there, but this is a little backwards, is, well, I've developed this iron triangle. I must ship 10,000 Nokia phones by this date, independent of whether or not the marketplace actually wants it. I said 10,000 Nokia phones, that's what we're going to get. Well, now we're just playing the project management game. And with that, I have different devices that I can use to still try and be data-driven and do that as best I can. And one thing that I like to use is a Monte Carlo simulation. So take all the velocity that I've had on this team in the past and all that they're able to accomplish with all the curveballs, all that, strong sprint, weak sprint, all that stuff. Try and take intuitive guesses on how much I know about the product. You can tweak all these things and run it. Run, 1,000 times or whatever, and see, given all these variables and inputs I have, what's my percentage confidence, right? It's not a green-red binary thing. What's my confidence based on how many scenarios achieve the time and scope that I want? And am I okay with that? If I'm not, one of the variables has to change. And if that conversation is going to be, let's add more power to it, because maybe scope or data is not a negotiable, then you at least have shown your homework, right? But again, I want to emphasize at that point, you're letting how you're internally viewing your process drive how you develop your product, rather than the marketplace, the industry, the corporate strategies that you're really trying to pursue. You're being very inward looking on how you're approaching your product. And I would recommend be externally looking. Mm-hmm. Why do I need these things? What's the benefit? What's the value? You should always be asking why. Why am I doing this?
Yep.
And if why is because, well, I've got to satisfy internal numbers, you really got to think about, the cart and horse scenario. Your metrics should be supporting your business needs, not the other way around.
Cool.
For those watching or listening that may not be familiar with all the terminology and stuff, can you just kind of chat about the iron triangle, right? You mentioned that a couple times.
Yeah,
some people may not really know. No problem.
No, good catch. So iron triangle is just the classic project management. And, imagine you have a triangle. You have your scope, resources, and your time. And then there's kind of the ghost fourth edge that they'll put in there, which is quality, right? And the idea that it's the iron triangle means that it's rigid, right? If you've locked in scope, you've locked in your resources, your people, your cash, and you've locked in your time, you can't move one of those without adjusting the other. You say, I want it a month earlier. Well, maybe with more resources or less scope, I can achieve it, for example. Or say, well, I want to do it cheaper. Well, maybe if I draw the timeline out a bit and I have this guy on 50-50 projects or whatever, or I have the quality go down, maybe we can achieve it. And it's used for like traditional project management scenarios, because then you get locked into that. Reason I don't like that is that's a very fixed way of looking at your product. And I think nowadays it's less about resource efficiency. Not that that isn't a factor. I think it absolutely, we should always be aiming to be efficient, but more about what opportunities am I capitalizing on? What am I doing to be competitive in the marketplace? Again, going back to the Nokia thing, you got that iron triangle locked down. I'm very efficient at shipping a product that nobody wants. Or it could be relatively inefficient, which the initial iPhone, by today's standards, sucked. It was buggy, it was weird. People loved it though. It's what they wanted. They were relatively inefficient, but it was the right product.
Yeah.
Rather than Nokia, very efficient, which people still liked, but then there was a disruption to it, and now consumer expectations have changed. You want to be external looking. What is going on with my customers? What's going on with my competitors? Mm-hmm. And then support capabilities and processes to help you achieve that, rather than refining processes and capabilities to satisfy something internal that's not even taking into account, I would argue, most important stakeholders, your customers.
Yeah, who plays a better snake, Nokia phones or iPhones? iPhones hands down. Play a better snake.
I don't know. I'm nostalgic though for the Nokia snake.
So you mentioned that there are times where you've got to implement or you've got to use other non-agile or non-agile methodologies into what it is you do as product owner. I mean, what are some of the triggers or some of the things that you've looked at where you're like, you know what, agile may not be the best thing for me to do in this scenario. Here, I'm going to go to with this other methodology of managing my work and managing my product. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. And it might be a little wishy-washy, but it's something that I'm constantly looking at, use a sport expression, head on a swivel, right? Because I'm not here just to implement dogma,
Hmm.
right? Or install Scrum or, oh, congrats, you're agile, right? Similar to how I was talking about just previously about your processes, your transformations, your capabilities need to support a larger outcome, a larger mission that you're driving towards. I see the modus operandi for your software development, how you approach software development to also be in line with that. So if I have a ineffective but technically correct and pure agile process versus something that's actually effective but is a hybrid or impure agile, you can probably guess which one of those I'm going to pick.
Hmm.
And that you need to go into two ears, one mouth mode. Am I just pushing dogma down people's throats, or am I actually trying to support the outcomes? Because don't get me wrong, I am always going to try and shoot for ideal, right? And I do believe in all these different things, agility, cross-functional teams, DevOps, so on and so forth, that they are a more fit tool and process for the job of trying to be highly adaptive and capitalize on opportunities. But if the environment isn't ready for it, or fitness isn't absolute, right? I can take a penguin and put it in the middle of Brazil and it's going to have a horrible time. Or I could take a parrot and throw it in Antarctica and it's going to have a horrible time. So you need to think about fitness first and foremost. How am I supporting the mission, the capabilities, the outcome of the transformation that we're trying to achieve?
I get the analogy, but man, like just saying, Brazil's pretty dope.
It's pretty
Even
dope.
even
Yeah.
just
But if you're a
saying,
penguin,
Penguin
man,
would
it's
have
going
a
to be
really good
warm.
time in Rio. I'm just saying. They made a movie about it.
So
Last question for me, for this part is, what would you say, just in general sense? You're going in, you've got a new product, you get to build a new team. What's your ideal team size? Like, what's the ideal the team size for a Scrum team?
Yeah. I mean, you may have heard the 2 to 3 pizza rule, right? Which took me an embarrassing long time to understand what was meant by that. So if you've ever heard that but don't know, like me, we're confused, you should be able to feed your team with 2 or 3 pizzas, right? But what that really means, like concrete numbers wise, including, I would say your Scrum Master and your product owner should be looking at like 5 to 9 ish, right? And if you have those two, that means a development team size of 3 to 7. About like 7 starts getting pretty beefy. But if you only have literally 2 developers, not much of a team. I mean, if you have 1, then I would say, like, why do you have the overhead of a whole team?
That's a lot of pressure.
Just incorporate that feature into another product if it's truly that slim. So too small doesn't make sense. Too big, it gets unwieldy. It gets difficult. Your ceremonies drag out. It's harder for everyone to stay in sync. So your Scrum teams, your product teams, I would say they have to stay within that size if you're going to try and fire on every single cylinder.
So to kind of go back to what we chatted about a little before, where if you're getting from the business and they're saying like, hey, we also need you to do these. And I realize you got 1 through 5 priority, but you got to get to number 3. And then you come back, well, here's our velocity. Here's what we've been doing. Right. So we realistically can't unless we get more people. Right. But then you kind of also mentioned potentially breaking that out into another product team. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that would be my recommendation. I know there's different scaled methodologies. And again, and none of this is absolute, right? You really have to, having different tools in your bag is not a substitute for critical thought as a product owner. Never, right? You've got to think about critically how your team is working and how your product is performing in there. And that's where it's great to have your Scrum Master, right? Looking into the internal processes and people. That's where you have a really great partner there. But personally, I am not a big fan of a lot of the scaled methodologies And I would prefer to take a more critical look at how I'm structuring my products to see, can I develop different products or different product teams that are independent and able to push their valuable features out to the marketplace within their own team, right? Before I would look at scaling it, whether that's Nexus or less or SAFe or whatever, because I'll tell you why I think that. Even a well-structured, well-oiled, scaled Scrum process is inherently going to have more barriers in it. Get into some Phoenix project type stuff, right? There's inherently going to be more dependencies when you're in a scaled scenario than if you approach each one of your product teams as a fully independent node. And if the emphasis is going to be placed on high adaptability, right, time to market, all that good stuff, every barrier you introduce or every dependency you introduce is going to hamstring that in a big way. It's not always possible, though. Sometimes there's a time and place for everything.
So with that said, I mean, with the 2 to 3 pizza rule, are we talking New York pizza, Chicago style pizza, Wisconsin pizza? I mean, because it will vary the number of people you can feed. I'm just saying.
Well, you're out in Chicago, right, Nelson?
Yeah, that's right.
You should be the first to say that deep dish isn't necessarily the say-all be-all Chicago, right?
Just saying. Just saying.
If it's deep dish, I think it's more 1 to 2. Let's be honest. I don't think your team's eating 3.
No, I don't know. I got some greedy carnivorous people.
Got a hungry team, literally a hungry team.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that great info. But you know what? Oh man, we're almost late. We've invited everyone on. You can't see them right now, but we've invited everybody on here for our quarterly review. Yes, our quarterly review. We're doing it right here, right now, and we've already kind of prepped them with all the information about what we've done and where and all the successes that we've had and challenges. But this is the opportunity where we collectively get to pitch where we think we're going to be going in the next quarter. And I know we've got this great idea for our next product. Chris, you want to tell people about it real quick?
Yeah. So, the
gas
powered
unicycle.
Yes, it's a gas-powered unicycle, and we're doing it in our own style here today. We're just going to be going one word at a time to give you the exact specifications and our vision for this new product. So, Andrew, why don't you kick it off, then Chris and me. Here we go.
We
together
thought
why
you
don't
want
to
have
manual
pedals.
Period. This
innovation
is
so
incredible
that
we
aren't
sure
that
your
minds
are
capable
of even
understanding
what
it
is.
Exclamation point. Enter, colon.
Oh, your
ideal
transportation
method.
Period. Now
you
can
fill
the
void
of
gas
powered
vehicles
with
one
product.
period.
I'm crying here. Oh my God.
Do I have to kick
Yeah,
off?
start off the next one.
Unicycles,
Are
Efficient.
period. Unicycles,
are
Awesome.
unicycles,
are
So
last year,
which
now,
changes,
everything.
period. So
electric, no, gas. Forgot for a second. Got confused with reality. We're combustion engine.
Is
depleting
Quickly,
so
we
engineers
this
contraption.
period. With
this
Comma, we
expect
that
you
can
become
59%.
more
badass.
And that's the end of our presentation. That's the end of our presentation right there. Lots of hyphenated words. Lots of words in other languages are truly just one word at that point. Andrew, thanks for swinging by the podcast today to share your insight into product ownership within Agile teams. Really appreciate your time and effort here. If you like what we're doing here at the podcast, go ahead and click on the subscribe button for those of you who are on our YouTube. If you haven't heard of our YouTube, why don't you swing by our YouTube channel, go to youtube.com, type in BreakFree Solutions, and you can find us there.
If you also want to find us, we've got breakfreesolutions.com. And other than that, we hope you'll stop by and see us next time.
So I've been your host, Nelson Velasquez.
I'm Chris Lee.
And we have Andrew Diodati on here. And thank you so much. We'll see you later.